Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Nazir daf Nun Tes. We're going to begin on Nun Chesed Beis by the two dots. Rav. So Rav says that make adam kol gufay betar. Just in general, a person is allowed to lighten his whole body with a razor. In other words, if he has excess hair on his body, so the din is you can use a razor, even though there's a prohibition of using a razor to shave one's beard or the issue about takifu, of cutting one's payas, but that does not extend itself l'chayra when it comes to your body. Meisvei hamavir beis hashechi beis ha'erva harizel like it. The din is, if a person will shave under his arms or his erva, then he gets a malchus. So in this, the Mefarish says, "Ve'ein bo mishum lo yilbash gever simosisha." The question is this a behavior that women do exclusively? Therefore, you're like wearing women's clothing, and those you're acting in a woman manner. So your answer is habatar habamisparayim. So it depends if it's with a razor. That means you cannot use a razor. However, with scissors, you're allowed to cut and lighten your hair with scissors. Rab nami batar kaimer. But when Rab said his statement, he said meko adam kol gufa batar. He says you're allowed to use a razor. So what do you mean that you can't use a razor? So he says ke'ain ta'ar. So it means with something like a razor. You can't use a razor, but maybe ke'ain tar is what he's referring to. Says the Mefarish, shigazes b'misparayim b'samach habasar ke'ain tar. It really means scissors. And when he said tar, it means ke'ain tar, which is really scissors, because you cut your hair very close, just like a razor would do. But because you're using scissors, it's allowed. Omer Rabbi Chia Marabba, Omer Rabbi Yochanan Hamaver Beis Hashech Beis Erva Loika. So we learned that if you shave those areas, you get malchus. Meisvei Ha'aver Seir and Mediver Cipher. But we learned elsewhere that it's only din d'Rabbanan. So if it's din d'Rabbanan, how can you get malchus? So my loika nami d'kaimer midrabanan. Maybe when he says you get malchus, it is midrabanan. And on this, Taisa says, however, Rav Yochanan misparayim aser, that really he actually will even aser the use of scissors. So it's not so clear when it says that there's an issa d'Rabbanan of like malchus mardus, if that's dafka batar or b'misparayim. It's not so clear what the maskan is over there. Okay, question 5. Amarav meikal adam kol guf batar meismi amav beis hashach beis erva harzel loka matiritza b'gemara al kushazu. So he answers very cleanly. The Gemara says habatar hab b'misparayim. One's with razor, one's with scissors. Scissors allowed. However, according to the Girsas Bahag, kikam around b'seir b'shar ivarim u'baraisa b'beis hashachi u'beis erva. So he says that maybe the nafkamina is on where the beis hashachi and the beis erva. That's something which women did, and therefore that's when you would get malchus. However, you would shave other parts of your body, which is not something which is necessarily exclusive to women, so that's something in which is not as much of an issue. Question TA4. Hamaver seir beis hashechi and ma yanshu. So Gemara said it's the machlokas, whether it's malchus mardos or it's mamish malchus. Okay. So on this, the Gemara continues on Nun Testament Al. So Ikadi Army, those say that Rav Chia Barabba, Rav Yochanan, Hamaver beis hashecha beis erva loika. Now that pasuk obviously shows that the malchus is a din d'oraisa. What do you mean? It's only din d'Rabbanan. So it's a din d'Rabbanan. You can't quote a pasuk. A pasuk would make it a din d'oraisa. So again, it's a machlokas. Is it malchus mamish d'oraisa or is it malchus mardus d'Rabbanan? So he holds like this Tanya, the Sanya Hamaver beis hashecha beis erva, one who removes hairs from his armpits or erva, harizet oiber mishum lo yilbash gever simosisha. So we have a beferish again, a pasuk, and therefore you would technically be getting malchus in that case. Vatana kalma hay lo yilbash gever maidarish be. So what does he use with that? What does he learn out from that pasuk? If it's not coming to teach us the din of shaving the beis hashechi and the beis erva, So the pasuk says like this: Liyeh kol kli gever al isha. And the pasuk in its entirety is that lo yekli gever al isha, v'lo yilbash gever simlash isha. So you not to wear, a man can't wear a woman's clothing. Ki suavas Hashem lokecha kol ois. And who does this is an abomination. So that's the pasuk. So im shaloi yilbash simos isha. If it's just coming to a man shouldn't wear woman's clothing, v'isha simos ish, that a woman shouldn't wear men's clothing. Tarik for nemer toevahi, ve'in kan toeva. So it then says there's an element of a toeva, it's an abomination, which sounds like it's very, very bad. But what's the level of a toeva over here? El shal yilbash simos isha v'yeshi ben hanashim, v'isha simos ish v'teishi ben hanashim. The problem is not a man wearing women's clothing and women wearing men's clothing as much as that the reason why a man is doing that is in order to be able to be among women, which that creates a toeva, which unfortunately in 2023, this is a common discussion of a man who dresses up like a woman. Is he allowed, or is he allowed to go into a woman's locker room? So this is mamish what this Gemara is talking about. And the pasuk is pretty clear. It's a toeva. It's obviously something which is an abomination, in which means it's twisted. You end up having these people going into women's lockers and vice versa. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer Menayin shelo teitze isha b'kli zayin l'milchama. How do we know a woman should not wear weapons, specifically in a time when there was men only that were fighting in these wars? Because wearing weapons like armor and stuff like that, that was the men's garb. A man should not groom himself as a woman grooms herself. Amar Rav Nachman ben Nazir mutter. However, he says when it comes to a Nazir, it's mutter. What does that mean? Says Taisus, "Lahaver beis hashechem beis erva tiksaver achrei shahanazir maver kol seir roshel chashiv noi." After he removes all of his hair, so it's not considered to be beauty. The tikkun legabi oisa ish lahaver beis hashechem beis erva. So the whole issue is if you're doing it in order to be able to look beautiful or to be able to look more women-like or more feminine. However, if you're just doing it because, again, the Torah tells you to shave your hair and everything, so then it's allowed. The halakha is not like that, because if there's no chiyuv to have to shave that part of the body, so you're not supposed to do that even if you're a Nazir. Okay, weiter. Armele Rabban Rav Shimon bar Abba, Chazinale Rav Yochanan Deleisle. I saw Rav Yochanan Deleisle, that he doesn't have. In other words, he doesn't have hair under his arms. He doesn't have hair. It's not because he shaves his armpits. Rav Yochanan didn't have hair because he was an older person. And an older person, sometimes their hair falls out, like the hair on your head. The hair falls out from all over the body. But it's not that he did it on purpose. There was a person who was to be punished, and this Malchus was supposed to take place. Kamed Rabbi Ami, he revealed his armpit. He saw that he wasn't shaved. He said, Rabbi Ami. So upon seeing this, he said, Shiv Kuha, Dain min Chavrehu. Leave him alone because he is like among the friends. In other words, the fact that he adheres to these laws, so we see that he's careful. That we see that he's obviously cautious not to do these things. So that's what the Mepharsh says. When they had to take off his clothes in order to give him Malchus, they saw that he had hair. So he said, he obviously knows it's usher to remove the Beis HaShachi, and therefore we can leave him alone. Okay. Balmine Rav Merebi Chia, Mahu Legaleach. What is the din regarding Legaleach, shaving? And again, What is that referring to? Taisa says the Beis HaShech and Beis HaErva. So what's the din? Is a person allowed to do that? So on this, the Gemara answers, Amalei Aser, you're not allowed to shave that. So Amalei Ava Kagadil, but it's growing. So what does that mean? Because it's growing. So says Taisus, V'hoyav Saifli Gadel, since it's going to grow a lot, Latsar Oisai Af Kishi Yigalchanu Ein Zekroi Tikun V'noi Shinamegalech El Linatzel B'tsar. The whole reason why he's shaving is only because it's a nuisance, it's uncomfortable. So because he has all this extra hair, he's shaving off. He's not doing it for beautification purposes. So Amalei Bar Pachsi, son of princes. Zman Yeshel, there's time. Kol Zman Shehu Gadol Seir. As long as time goes and his hair keeps growing, it will end up falling out. In other words, what he's basically saying is that there is no discomfort, because if his hair gets so long that it would be discomfort, the truth is by the time it would get to that level, it's going to fall out anyway, and therefore you shouldn't shave. Bamini Rav Chia, Mahu L'choich, are you able to scratch these hairs off? Or Malay Aser, Bebigdo Mahu, are you allowed to scratch through your garments? Or Malay Mutter, that's allowed. Iki Diamri, some say Bomine Betfila Bebigdo Mai. If let's say you have this like lice inside your garments, or Malay Aser, Malay Silchas Kavase, the halacha is not like that. That's not an issue. So let's look in Taisus. Gvul Yeshloy, Sheinu Gadol V'hoylech Kaser Rosh V'lei Kutzar. Mashma Kashein Adam Mischavin Lanoi. There's mashma from the question that if your whole purpose of shaving is not for beautification, Eli Nutzel, it's only in order to be able to remove discomfort or pain, then it's mutter. Delays me mishum kligever, and it's not like you're doing something which is like a man to a woman, or vice versa. V'im kain hamastakel b'mara, is a man allowed to stare at a mirror? So that's more like for vanity, which is not allowed. However, kadeshli yachboil ba'atzma shari. If he's shaving, he's cutting hairs, and he needs to look at himself so he doesn't hurt himself, that's certainly allowed. V'chein harif shirabah harav Shmuel ma'arya hayim estaper b'mara. When he would get his hair cut, it was done in front of a mirror, and therefore it's not considered to be like a woman's act. It used to be a woman would be the one that would look in a mirror. A man doesn't look in a mirror. But because of that, you would think maybe it's even in order to be able to make sure you don't hurt yourself, cut yourself. No, when it comes to that, it's clear, it's a different you do. The reason why you're doing it is to protect yourself, and therefore that's allowed. Question 6. So the din is yes, you're allowed to, so you don't hurt yourself. And we learned that out from the Gemara that mentioned this notion about shaving your hair from your Beis HaShechi, if in fact it does cause you tsar. Therefore it's mashma, if it does cause you tsar, then you would be allowed to do it. Okay. Next Mishnah, Nun Testament base. So this lengthy Mishnah says as follows. I'm sure I got that. Okay. Meis echmehen. What if one of them dies? What's that talking about? So the beginning of our parak, which is called Shnei Nazirim, is talking about a situation on Nun Zayin. You had two guys, and a third person came and said, I saw one of you became tameh, right? One of you two Nazirim became tameh. So one was definitely tameh, but one's tahar. So they had to go through this whole process of, if I'm tameh, so this is my carbon tuma. If I'm not, if you're the one tameh, it's yours. And then they flipped it. Now what happens though if one of them died? So now you can't do this whole thing as the Mishnah initially prescribed. So Rabbi Yeshua, Yavakesh Echem and Ashuk, get a different person now from the marketplace, another person. Sheyider Kenegdo, Benazir, he becomes a Nazir. Now you have a new guy. And V'oimer, you can say, Im Tameh Hayisi, if I was Tameh, Hari Ata Nazir Miyad, then you'll be a Nazir immediately. Im Tahar Hayisi, if in fact I am Tahar, Hari Ata Nazir Achashoshim Yoim, then you'll be a Nazir only after 30 days. V'seifin shloishim, they count for 30 days, Mavin carbon tuma. The carbon tahara be umar. And then he'll say as follows: Imanihu hatame. If I was the one who was tame, carbon tuma shali, was my carbon tuma. The carbon tahara shalcha. Im anihu hatahar, carbon tahara shali, the carbon tuma besafik. And this carbon tuma will have been brought besafik. V'seifim shloishim yom, they count 30 days, Mavin carbon tahara. Then you bring another carbon, but you make the following tanai. Ima niha tameh, if in fact that was tameh, then carbon tuma shali, then that carbon tuma was mine. The carbon tahara shalcha, v'zeh carbon taharasi, v'im anihu hatahar. If let's say I was the original person who was tahar, then the original carbon tahara shali, that one was mine. The carbon tuma besafik, I brought that carbon besafik. V'zehu carbon taharascha, and this one now is your carbon. Armalul ben Zayma, so ben Zayma, who we're going to see is not really chaylik. He says, Umi shamel shehider kenegdom Nazir. Who would do this for you? That he would end up, this person would end up making this whole condition, this double term of Naziros. You yourself just bring the following karbanos. Bring a chatas oaf and bring an oilos behema. And say the following: if in fact I was the one who was tameh and the guy who died was the one who was tahar, then hachatas mechoivasi. The chatas is from my obligation. V'oil nedava. V'im tahar yisni. If in fact that was always tahar, so ha'oil mechoivasi. Then let it be that the oil will be for my obligation, like a Nazir tahara, but chatas masavik, and the chatas is masavik. The service shloishim yom, count 30 days, maybe carbon tahara, and then the Omer, he says the following: Im tameh hayisi ha'oil harishayin in the dava. Then the first oil in fact was in the dava. V'zu chayva. Now I'm going to bring an oil chayva. V'im tahar hayisi. If I was always tahar, then the oil harishayin chayva. Then the oil that I originally brought, that was the obligation. V'zu nedava. V'zu shar karbain, and these are the rest of my karbanos. Rabbi Yeshua nimsa zeh maybe karbanaisav l'chatzayin. L'chayr, we see from here that he can bring karbanos in parts. Of l'hoydel chachamim ben zayma. But the truth is, the chachamim were agreed with ben zayma that karbanos could be brought in two different steps. So, for the Gemara, the lacy. So, what's the big deal? Why did Ben Zoma come up with this whole other answer? Why can't he just do this whole thing? Let's say someone came from the shuk and partook in this. So Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, lo Amar Rabbi Yeshua el chadid ba es talmidim. You're right. He wasn't chaylik, but he only mentioned this in order to sharpen up his students. As the Rosh explains, l'chadid es talmidim im yesh mehem meishiv keben zayma. He wanted to know if any of his talmidim could come up with this other alternative approach. That which Rab ben Zayman did say. Rab Nachman, my Levid lay, Rabbi Yeshua would dafke de lo lisser. So it's looking Taisus. He says as follows: Perish. What is this referring to? Lebnei moyim, the innards shlo yasrichu, that these fats should not spoil. The kivan shiavakish. Echad sheyider kenegdum Nazir, since he wants a person to make a neder against him, after 30 more days, when they both shave, you need to do the tenufa, you have to do the waving of the fats. And the teglachas of both of them is before the waving. In the problem is that this is going to end up spoiling in the interim. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see if there's another question. Nazir shahaya tameh b'safik muchat b'safik. No. Nazir shahaya sameh this. Adka.